So we're going to start this class lying on our backs. If you'd like to come and lie down with your feet standing on the floor and settling your arms over your head on the floor behind you. And taking a moment to release into the shoulders, the wrists. Take a moment to feel into the whole body here this morning. And someone said to me after the Friday class that even taking our arms over our heads like this and releasing them into the floor can be quite a profound experience in terms of releasing the shoulders and an opening in the chest. So just having a check-in with yourself here. Noticing the points of contact with the floor. Noticing the quality of your breath. And generally how you're feeling this morning. Maybe you'd like to set yourself an intention for the class, a sankalpa, to hold your focus. And then bringing your attention to your left foot and beginning to make a really pronounced footprint through the left foot into the floor. You may notice that your leg muscles engage, maybe your buttock and hips lift ever so slightly. And then you release. Take a few rounds like this just with the left foot. If it helps you to visualize, really visualize the footprint, visualize yourself pushing your foot through the floor. If you're very relaxed in the rest of the body, you may notice that the left side of the pelvis lifts up and there's a tilt across the pelvis, down to the right. It's a mini rotation. So we're trying to soften as much as possible into all the muscles around the front of the hips, pelvis. And then you can let that go on the left side. And bring your attention to the right footprint. And in the same way, begin to just press down through that right foot, feeling a tiny lift of the right buttock and hip before you release them down again, and so on for a few rounds just on the right side. Feeling that gentle tilt from the lift of the right side all the way over to the left side of the pelvis before you release down again. And it's very subtle. There is strength in the leg that you're working with, and an availability of complete softness through the rest of the body. Can you begin now? In fact, just rest a moment, neither foot pressing down. And then begin to walk from foot to foot. So press into the left and release, press into the right. And the quality we're looking for here is as if you're walking whilst on your back. One foot, then the other foot. Very attentive to the subtleties of the movement and how this feels in the pelvis, in the groin. And then letting all of that go. And we're going to bring a slightly different asymmetrical movement into the pelvis now. I'd like you to begin to move your left knee forwards. So you'll be pressing into the foot a bit, but you're drawing the right knee towards you without lifting your foot off the floor. So it's a diagonal movement across the pelvis. And then ease the right knee forwards and the left knee back. So it's a little push-pull here, and I find it incredibly soothing for the sacroiliac area of the back of the pelvis here. One knee forwards, the other knee back. And breathe. And again, we're not looking for big movements here. We're looking for a subtlety. And we're definitely not trying to push anything or force anything. It's about our curiosity here. What does it feel like to take this very strange asymmetrical movement across the pelvis, initiated by the movement from each knee? And then let that go. And now we come back to that more familiar movement where we allow both knees to move forwards. And this will allow you to roll over your tailbone and create a little arch in the lower back. And then draw both knees back and your lower back flattens. You might press both feet into the floor a little here. So the more familiar pelvic tilting, moving from the knees forwards and then back. And notice how the movement travels up the whole body. Allow it to travel up the whole body. Beautiful. Just a little bit more of this lovely soothing pelvic tilting. And then letting all of that go, sliding your arms by your side, sliding your feet away, allowing the whole body to settle. You're going to take your arms in a vertical position. So your fingertips are facing the ceiling. The palms are facing each other. I want you to lift as if you're trying to reach something on the ceiling. So you're drawing your upper arm bones from the shoulder sockets, but then settle them back down again. So what we're looking for here is maximum connection with the shoulders and the floor. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. So the feet are off the floor. Lovely. So keeping your attention on how settled and level the shoulders are. You're going to begin to take your knees to the left, only to the point at which the right shoulder doesn't peel away from the floor. It's a little bit of a study here. You want absolute quietness in the shoulders, and you're not trying to touch the floor with your knees. And then at some point, bring your knees back to the center, and then allow them to move to the right, but without the left shoulder moving from the floor. And I'm going to leave you for a few moments to practice moving from side to side, noticing what you need to do to really keep that stillness in the shoulders, whilst exploring maybe a little bit more of a twist each time. You can move your knees towards the end of the mat or up towards the top. See what works for you. And breathe. And at some point, allowing both knees to drop to the right, left, and release your arms down in a T shape. Maybe your left hand settles lightly on the right knee. And if it's comfortable for you, take your head towards the right and really soften here. And then bringing your head back to neutral and lifting your right knee followed by the left. And we'll take that full twist to the other side. So drop your knees to the right, look over to the left. Maybe taking your right hand over the left knee. And breathe. How soft can you become? Head back to neutral, lift the left knee, followed by the right. And just placing your feet down for a moment. Before we come over into an all fours position. Lovely. I want you to really make sure here that your fingers are spread. Your hands come into that lovely connection with the floor. So we take nothing for granted here. We're going to bring our attention to the space between the shoulder blades. So when you were on your back, we initiated a lot of movement in the lumbar spine, the lower spine. But here we're going to have our attention in the thoracic spine, so around the area of the shoulder blades. And you can begin to soften and dip between the shoulder blades, allowing the chest to open, maybe the head to lift a little. And then at some point, take the shoulder blades up towards the ceiling so the front body pulls into the back body. So it's your familiar cat-cow movement, but with a lot of attention between the shoulders, really softening to drop. And then more of a support through the hands and the arms to lift up towards the ceiling. Take a few breaths. Coming into as smooth a movement as possible. Wonderful. And then coming to rest a moment in a child's pose, sitting back towards your heels and releasing the wrists, the hands, the forehead. Finding your own stillness here. Letting go. And if you'd like to come back up onto all fours, but curl your toes under and sit back towards your heels so your arms are extended. And coming to that quietness in the neck, the shoulders, support through the hands, but without pushing. So we want to move, but from a place of stillness, a place of inner quiet. So when you feel you've found that, begin to take your heels towards the floor as you unfold slowly into a downward dog. But then once you're up here, coming back down again. And moving back up, being in absolutely no hurry to straighten the legs. And coming back down. And we're looking to receive the weight through the legs, through the lower body. The upper body is simply supporting. Breathe. And if you're not used to this, it will be harder on the legs. Strengthening in the legs is a byproduct, if you like, of this way of coming in and out of Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. We're looking for smooth, seamless movement and ease. Wonderful. And then please come and rest in child for a moment before we take that to the next level. So on Friday, we practiced an extended version of this class, and I also recorded that and we'll put it on YouTube today. Today we have half an hour less, but we still will cover as much as we can. Okay, so please come back onto your heels. Your toes are curled under. But this time we're placing our elbows and our forearms down. And you can have just very relaxed wrists and hands here. I suppose you do want to make sure that your elbows are underneath your shoulders, so not out to the sides. And it's exactly the same principle. We have stillness, quietness in the neck, the head, the shoulders and the arms. And then we begin to take our heels to the floor, lifting the bottom. And then moving back down again. So find your rhythm. This is fantastic for building upper body strength, even though we're also taking the weight into the legs. Breathe and feel your way. We're not really interested in here in performing some advanced posture, but rather really smoothing out the connection between the mind and the body. So we're creating smooth movements, mapping fresh neural pathways, fantastic coordination. And then you can rest in child again. And come to that stillness, that quietness. Very, very soft in the roof of your mouth and behind your eyes. And we come to the final version here. So if you'd like to come back up on your knees, curl your toes under. But this time we're placing our head on the floor and interlacing our hands behind the head so that the back of your head can just be cradled in the palms of your hands. If this doesn't feel comfortable for you or you have any neck issues, you could come back to the option we did before with just on the forearms without the head on the floor. And I want you to forget any idea of what a headstand should look like. We're not coming into headstand, but we are allowing a space at the back of the neck, a softness in the shoulders. You might want to bring your knees a little bit closer in for this. And then you begin to come up, and you come right up onto your tiptoes for this. And then drop your knees again. And practice coming in and out of this. Fantastic. Lovely. Really lovely, coming right up on the toes. Some of you will even walk your feet in a little bit. Fantastic. I'm really loving what I can see here. And then please come and rest in child again. Come to rest. Maybe take the hands over the back of your head just for a nice little soothing feeling in the neck and the head, and rest. Noticing your breath. And then we come up again, but this time we have the right foot forwards. So we're sitting on our left heel, toes are curled under. And the right heel, I've got my right heel about level with my left knee. And the idea here is that you can really rest the right side of the body over the thigh, hands on the floor. So you come to be very settled here. So with all of these movements, we're giving our feet quite a lot of love and care here. I really hope you have bare feet. So you have a real sense of opening the back of the toes and the sole of the foot. When you're ready, begin to take the left heel towards the floor as you fold over the right leg. Don't worry if you can't straighten the leg. And then you come back down again. And we just move a few times here in between a sprinter's position and a version of pyramid pose, Parsvakonasana. Now this might be enough for some of you, and some of you may want to take your left hand to the hip, right hand inside the foot. You can drop the left heel and gently open to the left. But then we close it down again. All those movements, we come all the way back down into the sprinter. So you need to coordinate bringing the left heel down, the right foot in, left hand to the hip, maybe opening, looking up towards your left hand. And we're not looking for maximum effort at all. We're looking for a simplicity and a smoothness in the movements, the coordination. Notice where the weight is distributed. Notice how your effort is distributed. How's your balance? Are you breathing? So doing one more on this side, and we'll then come over to the other side. So remember, when you come over to the other side, to settle first, to allow the left side of the body to rest against the thigh. So that we really start from stillness and then come in to the movement. And don't come straight into the twist. Take a few simple opening and closing movements with that back leg. Breathe. When you are ready, and only when you're ready, dropping the right heel, left hand inside the foot, right hand to your hip, and you open to the right. Maybe you lift your arm. and moving yourself. Hi, Teresa. Into these gentle opening twists. And I know for some of you this will be a challenge for your balance, and that's why we're doing it. It's a really good way of building that equilibrium, building that awareness. Connecting the smoothness of movement of the body with the smoothness of our neural pathways, the way our brain connects to the body. So just taking one more. And we can take a brief child's pose here as you come down before coming to the next stage. Coming to rest. And soften. And let go a bit. And now when we come up, we take the right foot forwards, but we bring it much further forwards. So there's like a right angle at the knee. So find your stability. If you need to cushion that back knee, please do. And we're going to combine a twist with a side bend here. And let's just see how we go. Might want to watch me first. So you can take your arms out wide. I'm going to twist to the left. And once you've rotated as far as right is right for you, then you drop the right hand and bring the left arm over. And you come back, you open out and then face the front, arms down. So that's the movement. Open, rotate, side bend. And again, we're not looking for maximum effort, we're looking for smooth, silky movements. Stay with the breath. Feeling into the side body. You can add a variation to this if you want, which is that when you come down with the right hand, you bring it outside the foot rather than inside the foot, just slightly different. There's one more variation where instead of twisting to the left, we twist to the right. Take the left hand down so we come into a closed twist to the right. And you can move between those three options. And if anybody's wanting a stronger practice, you can lift the back knee, but that's definitely not for everybody. I'm not going to do it today, just to give you a sense what it's like to lift the back knee. You just come into slightly more strength, but we're actually going to change to the other side. I saw your knee, Karen, and remembered that instruction. Sorry, I forgot to suggest it earlier. Take the left foot forwards. And we just do exactly the same thing, those same combinations of rotating inside the foot, side bend with the right arm over. Rotating, some of you bring the foot hand outside the foot, side bend, right arm over. Some of you close the twist to the left, drop the right hand. That's when it's quite nice to lift that back knee. Take a few rounds. And when you're ready, come back to rest. Resting fully, maybe hands underneath your forehead. And settle into your quietness. And breathe. And from your child, please slide onto your bellies. Head still resting on your hands. What I'd like you to do here for a moment is keeping your, in fact, you could curl your toes under, but keeping your toes on the floor, lift the knees off the floor. See if you can, some of you might not be able to, and then drop the knees. And what we're looking for here is a movement initiated from the front of the hips to lift the knees. So if you look at me now, you'll see what happens sometimes with a prone back bend on the belly. The people simply lift their feet off the floor, keep the knees down, and that's not necessarily doing what we're looking for here. So you could curl your toes now. Lift the knees, and maybe you can lift the feet as well. Don't worry if you can't. And then drop the knees, drop the feet. So take a few rounds. We lift the knees first, and from the front of the hips, see if you can lift the whole legs off the floor, a little or a lot. It's not a big movement usually. But it really, really strengthens all the muscles of the lower back, around the lower spine. And just observe for yourself how this varies, the ability to lift the feet without bending the knees. You need to lift the knees first, otherwise you cheat. And I know for a fact that for some people, the feet won't come off the floor, and that is fine. You still will be activating the back muscles. Okay, have a rest. And we're going to imagine that our necks start much lower down the spine than we think. So maybe in between the shoulder blades. Some of you might like to visualize that your necks start right down in your pelvis. And with this visualization, with this imagination, beginning to lift the head, lift the chest, using your eyes to guide the movement, and then come down. And keep going a few rounds. So essentially we've separated a common back bend on the front into two parts. First of all, we worked with the legs and the lower back. And now we're working with the mid to upper back and the throat. And you can notice for yourself which of these parts you find more accessible or more enjoyable. At some stage, resting your forehead down, arms by your sides. And let's try and bring everything up together. The knees, the feet, the chest, the arms, the head. The whole back now alive and working. And you can move between resting and lifting. See if you can really spread your fingers and your toes to enliven even more. But without force. Find an ease. And taking one more. When you come down, bringing your hands by your ribs and very gently lifting yourself back up. You can settle for a moment on your heels here as I explain. We're going to come into a pigeon sequence with the right knee forwards. If there's anyone here today who has any issues with the knees and can't come into pigeon, you're going to come onto your back with the right ankle over the left knee, right hand through the gap to bring your legs in towards you, interlacing your hands. That'll be a lovely sensation in the right hip, and you can move around a bit here. We'll be a little while in the pigeon sequence on the front. For the front version, bring your right knee forwards and just check that your left leg is straight behind you. And it may be that your right knee is right in between your hands or further over to the right. And we'll settle first. So we're coming down on our forearms and just settling into the hips here. Ardha Kapotasana. Pigeon pose or half pigeon. Really settle, really drop. And from this quiet, settled pose, beginning to come onto the palms of your hands, arms are straight. And we come back to a sense of the long neck here. So you start by looking down and then guide your eyes along the floor in front of you and then up the wall or whatever's in front of you. For a little bit of extension in the spine, a little bit of a back bend, and then curl back in again, chin to your chest. So it's not a big movement, but it's bringing a tiny back bend into your pigeon. You should feel this in the front of the left hip, I should think. I do. And this movement might be enough for you, or you might be settling down in front. Or some of you might like to add a little twist. So you come up, keep your head level as you begin to look over your right shoulder, and your left shoulder and hip come with you. So we're bringing as much of the body into the twist as possible. And then we come back and drop the chin back into stillness. So you come into those movements if you want. Find the back bend first. Keep your head level, eyes on the horizon as you twist. Make it quite juicy if you can, or at least explore the ability or the availability of juice in this pose, a real softness and ease in the slidey twist. You could take a couple more, or you could come down to settle and rest here. If you are on your back, you could lie flat for a moment before changing sides on your pigeon on the back. If you're on your front, having a little rest in sleeping pigeon before changing sides to bring the left knee forwards. Right leg straight behind you. And we start off by settling, so really dropping into the hips, the back of the ribs. Noticing what's here before we bring in any movement. And then straightening up your arms. And remembering your long neck. Remembering to guide the movement with the eyes. And coming into the gentle back bend. And keep moving in and out of it. And you don't have to add the twist, that's only for those of you who want to. When you've come to the top of your gaze of your eyes, begin to look over the left shoulder, bring the right shoulder and the hip with you. So I really love this for getting right into the ribs, the side body on the right. And breathe. Taking one or two more before you come down to settle again. If you're on your back, releasing from your pigeon on the back, having a little rest. And if it feels right for you, and if it feels right, having a few moments in a downward dog after your pigeons to just feel that release, that opening. Breathing. And we will meet with our knees on the floor again. But this time with our hands a bit further forwards. We're just going to practice coming into a version of Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward dog. So you just allow your pelvis to fall forwards as you drop over the thighs. And then you come into a little back bend, your head lifts. Don't tolerate any strain in the lower back. Come into it less if it's too much. And we move in and out. Lovely. And I would like you to decide if you would like to continue with this moving into upward dog and out, and you're really supporting yourself with the arms, not pushing. Or if you'd like to begin to bring in a downward dog to the sequence, you come back, you roll over your toes, you lift into your downward dog, just like we did at the beginning. You drop your knees, slide your hands forwards as you roll the pelvis, the thighs forwards into your upward dog. So we move in between the back bend of an upward dog and the forward fold of a downward dog. Very soothing for the spine to take these repetitive movements. Just taking a few more. Lovely, beautiful, Liz. And then you can rest in child. Come back and rest, softening all of the tissues of the back. Relax the head, the neck, the shoulders. If you'd like to join me with your toes curled, sitting back on your heels again. You might want to watch me for this if you weren't here on Friday. You can bring your hands a bit closer in. So we're going to begin to take our heels towards the floor, but allow the knees to drop out. So you come into a kind of curly squat. Don't worry if your heels don't reach the floor. So just a really, for me, it really soothes out the back of the pelvis, the lower back. And then come back down again, knees together to the floor. That's all you're going to do. Slide in and out. If you find this too difficult, you could come into a standing forward fold instead, because what we're really just doing here is forward folding. We're flexing the spine, but with the knees coming out to the side, you just have more of a hip opener, more of a squat. And this will be the last pose, the last movement before Shavasana. So when you're ready, do whatever you need to do to come to settle. So if you might want to have your own practice, you might want to add some more poses, sequences. Make sure you're warm enough as you come to rest. So we have actually moved the spine and all of its planes of movement today: forward, back, side, twist. And we've opened into all the joints quite systematically. So as you come to rest, just allowing yourself to settle into the whole body and let it go. Allow the floor to receive you. And of course, staying for as long as you like, resting or continuing your practice, maybe meditating. And when you are ready to move on into your day, beginning to breathe a little bit deeper. You feel the body breathing. You can introduce gentle movements into the body, into your joints, maybe rolling your head from side to side, having a little stretch, a little roll around. Maybe you take some time to lie on your side before meeting me sitting. Eyes closed with your hands in front of the heart space. And observe for a few moments before we end the practice, just how you're feeling. Is there a lightness and ease in your seat? How's your breath? Can you feel into the space around you as well, to the front, to the back, to the left and the right, above your head and beneath your seat? And taking a full breath in towards the space of your heart. And as you breathe out, allowing your head to drop, chin to your chest. When your next breath comes in, lifting your head gently and opening your eyes into the morning. Thank you so very much for joining me. Namaste. As I said, the extended version of that class is on YouTube and we'll practice it again on Friday.